Well, I'm hoping that you guys are excited and motivated as I am, because I just got off a flight from Orlando, Florida, just to come see you guys and share the love of Christ with all of you. Now, just backstage, I was able to talk to Michael Chandler. What an absolute stud for Jesus. But I know you guys will appreciate this story real quick. I'm going to make it quick. I see the timer. I should make this quick. I missed my flight this morning. I woke up late. I was in the Uber, and I was upset with myself. I said, God, how could I miss this? I'm finna miss this entire event. And the entire time, I was talking to myself, and I said, you know what? God has a purpose for everything. The driver that was in the car looked at me and said, hey, everything happens for a reason. And I was mad at him at first. I said, you know, what are you talking about, man? This ain't the time to be all holy, all right? This is real life. And I got to the airport. I was upset with myself. I said, don't slam your phone. Don't be crazy. People may recognize you in here. And I'm walking through, and the lady at American Airlines, she screamed and said, hey, Officer Tatum, I love you. You've changed my life. Let me get you on the next flight. She put me on the next flight to get me here in time.
Let's go.
And I'm not telling that story because it has anything to do with me. That's just how God works. So it compels me to believe that this is a divine appointment between you and I. I got so many questions for you, Michael. So people that may not know, I don't know if you guys have read the pamphlet. They gave a true introduction. Michael Chandler was a wrestler, a prolific wrestler in high school, went on to college, fought in the UFC, and was a tremendous fighter. I'll tell you one quick story. I saw one of his fights. He fought against Ferguson. If you guys don't know what Ferguson is, put in Chandler and Ferguson. Don't let your kids watch it because it was brutal. He kicked him right on the chin, and homeboy took a nap on a MyPillow. And I thought he was a goner. However, Michael, you have a great family. You guys have chosen to adopt all of the things that Christians should be doing and believe in. I want to ask you, how has your faith been a part of your success and growth? I mean, from fighting in high school all the way up to fighting in the UFC.
Man, it's been a phenomenal journey. It really has. And you never quite know how much and how beautifully God is orchestrating your entire life until you get to a certain moment of reflection where you look back and you realize God had you in the palm of his hand your entire life. Every single setback has led you to another comeback, has added more armor to your body, your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, your spiritual body. I grew up Catholic, went to public school religion every Monday night, got my confirmation, communion, all that kind of stuff. I really came to Christ when I was in high school through an invitation from a friend named Kenny Bowen on my wrestling team. And I was the first one to really start going to church in my family after we kind of got through the Catholic, the Catholic process. And it's really just shaped me who I am. I met my wife because of a Bible study I went to. I became an All-American in college because of my mentor and Bible study leader in college. I have grown as a man, as a father, as a husband in so many different ways because my why is so much bigger than the lights and the stages, the kicks, the knees and the elbows, the X's and the O's, because I'm not here to fight and win. I'm here to make people feel something. And if I can go out there and make people feel something, they will then in turn feel God's presence, whether they're in their living room, whether they're in wherever we were in Arizona, whatever arena that was, where it was the greatest kind of performance and knockout of my life, they're going to feel God's presence because he's there and he's with us and he's within us.
That is so wonderful to hear. And if you guys haven't seen him fight, you need to watch his fight and then listen to what he's saying, because it's tremendous to hear a man with such strength and courage and dedication speak about the Lord the way you do. I want to jump back to your marriage and your adoption of 2 children, 2 boys. Can you talk us through that? How did God lead you into that? Because I know in the world we live in, some people may be afraid to adopt children. Some men may want to have children of their own or whatever the case may be, but can you walk us through that process? Because I think it's important for people to see that there is a way to build a family even through adoption.
Yeah, it has been easily the most impactful thing of my entire life, becoming a father. But the backstory is my wife used to go, she served at an inner city mission in Missouri. She used to go on mission trips to Jamaica. And ever since she was 14 years old, God put it on her heart that someday when she gets married, she was going to adopt. That was not what I thought. That was not a part of my plan. As soon as I finally chased her, I gave you the backstory. I chased her for like 7 years. We finally got together, and then I wanted to marry her and be with her so bad that she kind of mentioned adopting, and I was like, oh yeah, absolutely, I would definitely do that because I would too, you know, because I wanted to marry her. It didn't matter. But then it became real. Then it became, hey, God really started putting in our heart. And actually, Thomas Rhett, who's here in town, his first child, because a lot of people end up adopting after they might have a couple biological children. A friend of ours, Thomas Rhett, he lives here in town. His first child was adopted, and that's when I think my wife Bree really started thinking about it, and then we started praying about it, and she said, I think this is God's direction for how we're going to start our family. And I was like, okay, well, give me a second. I know I said that because I wanted to marry you, but give me a second. And it was just beautiful how even though I wasn't 100% on board right away, it was that little bit of time, that little bit of seeking God's face, that little bit of seeking wise counsel, that little bit of whether it be research, whether it be prayer, whether it be talking to people, that helped me make that decision. And just at the right time, we ended up, because of that somewhat delay or that somewhat of hesitation, we ended up with our son Hap. And it was a very quick process. Once we got through the entire stack of paperwork that you have to do and all the background checks and all that kind of stuff, we got an email at 1:40 p.m. At 1:46 p.m., congratulations, by the way, here's your opportunity. And then we had to present that night, so it was a 6-minute match. And I hesitate to say that sometimes because there could be someone in the audience right now who is in the adoption process, and we've all heard the stories that it can take a long time. But one of the most beautiful things that I've ever heard about adoption is what is meant for you will not pass you up.
Amen. Amen.
What is meant for you will not pass you up. And it doesn't matter if you have to wait 6 minutes like I did, or you have to wait 6 years. If it's on your heart, there are resources praying about it, seeking wise counsel. And it's just been the most amazing thing. Our son Hap is 6 years old. Our son Ace is now 1 year old. And being a father has changed me in ways that I never thought would be possible. The man that you see now fight, or if you've never seen me fight, the next fight that you see me in, I'm a different man because of being Hap and Ace's dad. And every opportunity, every fight is another stroke on this beautiful masterpiece that I get to paint for them. I don't want them to know who their dad is because of what I told them. They already think I'm Superman. It's a byproduct because we are their father. They're going to think that. But I want them to know who I am, because people cross their path and they know who their father is through other people. And it's been a beautiful journey, and it's blessed me in ways I never thought possible.
So eloquently spoken. You know, when I think about the story of you saying that you wasn't really on board, but you wanted to marry your wife anyway, I call that wisdom.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, wisdom, desperation. I don't know, one of the two. I knew I wanted to marry her. I said, babe, you're the one for me. I'm on board for sure, you know?
I love that. And another aspect of this, too, is because every place that we go, every step of our lives, every career field that we're in, every battle, every match that we're in, we have to take the Lord with us. And there is people out here, and I hope it's nobody in the crowd because y'all all perfect. Y'all saved, going to heaven. Somebody in another conference room. But, you know, when we look at Christianity and the boldness of Jesus Christ, some people think that we worship a God and we're giving reverence to a Lord that's a pacifist. And I don't think that's the case. And so with you being a man who gets in the ring and fights and challenge and take that challenge on, and I know people probably criticize you and say, you know, how can you be a Christian and you get in the ring and you fight and you do the things that you do? Can you talk to us about what that process is like? How do you battle between your career and still maintaining your relationship with God?
It's a great question because if you're not a mixed martial arts fan in here, you might see what I do and it looks barbaric, it looks violent, it looks like I'm the guy who is the opposite of what you would think. Christ would want to be. But I love what Rick just said. He's tired of Christians walking around acting like Jesus just sat around petting lambs. I thought that was a phenomenal line, so shout out to Rick for that one. But also, I love that question, and I always challenge it with, who are you or anybody else to question what the calling is on somebody's life?
Amen.
Who are you to question what is your shiny object? That shiny object that gets people to look. The shiny object that gets people to say, I want to look in that direction. Oh, wait a second, let me peel back the layers. Wait a second, what do I feel when I speak to that guy? What do I feel when I watch him on social media? What do I feel when I hear things about him? And for me, that's my way that I'm able to reach the masses. My net is cast because of mixed martial arts, because of a seemingly violent sport and almost anti what we think Christianity is, what we think living by faith is or walking with Christ is. And I also actually love the fact that it is somewhat opposite. It is somewhat on the fringe, if you will, because it makes it that much more impactful when I sit next to you and you say, holy cow, I thought you'd be a lot more angry. I thought you'd be a lot more violent. Yeah. I thought you'd have some scars, a little bit more, some stitches. I thought you'd be a little bit more unapproachable. And then when I can lead with love and I can lead with service and I can lead with what I'm feeling in the moment, they say, well, maybe that mixed martial arts thing isn't so bad. And I can tell you this, there are a lot of beautiful people, amazing people, and actually very much pacifist people in mixed martial arts. I can tell you right now, I might be the biggest pacifist in this room, but you watch me fight, and I look like the biggest psychopath in this room for sure. But that's where living in between both extremes, I believe God equipped me with that calling. God equipped me with that ability to live on one end of the spectrum with extreme love and joy and peace and service, and then live on the complete opposite end of violence or the discipline to go out there and do what I do, the X's and O's of mixed martial arts on a huge stage. But when millions and millions of people are sitting down on a Saturday night to watch me fight and they see how I carry myself, or even when God intervenes there, even if I'm not even talking about my faith, God intervenes and they say, man, I want to know more about that guy. And then they dive deeper into it. That's where the Spirit is moving. So I just think that's my shiny object, and people get to see it. And always remember, who are you to ever question what somebody's calling is on their life? It might look different than yours and yours and yours, but if it's leading people, if it's making them feel something, it's God ordained.
I love that. I love that. And I always look at examples in the Bible if I ever have any questions. And I could tell you one of the biggest warriors that we know of was a man after God's own heart, and that was King David. And, they teach the little story I'm glad they teach the kids a little watered-down story because it was very violent what David did to Goliath. He went into battle. He was a warrior, fighting with his bare hands. And then he was challenged. And he said, I'll take Goliath out. Take the stones, knock them in the head, beheaded him, is what the Bible says. So I'm not telling you go behead nobody, but if you start thinking that you serve a God that wants you to be passive and you can only go in one direction, God is raising up warriors in a time such as this. And we all have to understand that we are the body. You are different parts of the body. Some people are on this side, some people are on this side, some people write, some people speak, some people fight, some people coach fighters. And so we all have to work together, and I believe it's an opportunity for us to infiltrate every aspect of our society. If you're looking on television at the UFC, you should see Christians on television proclaiming the name of Jesus. So I want to get to I guess one last question. I ain't say one last question. We're going to keep going. We may even go over time. They're going to have to put me
break
off
the
stage.
Renegades write the rules. We just break the rules.
Right. And you're such an incredible speaker, and you have so much insight. We spoke about the family and adoption. We spoke about fighting. But tell me how, even after fighting, what is your plans and how does God orchestrate that? Because in sports, sometimes people have an identity in a certain sport. And then once that sport comes to an end, they lose their identity. They don't know where to go next. How does God influence what your perception is for your future even after fighting?
No, it's a great question because I can, what I do is extremely in depth. What I do is don't talk to me for 10 weeks because I'm in the zone, right? If you ain't my wife, if you ain't my kids, I'm in the zone. That's it, right? But ultimately, I did have my identity wrapped up in the winning the belts and the bright lights and creating a life of financial freedom, a life of notoriety, of platform, and the Lord humbled me in that. I went 688 days without winning a fight, almost 2 full years without winning a fight. And for a mixed martial artist, that's almost a death sentence. That's where that's where a lot of people would not be able to come back from. And I think it was that kind of experience where I realized, started taking stock in, why am I here? What am I doing? What is the purpose? What is my why? And now I fight with the kind of zeal and joy and peace with whatever outcome may be, because no matter what, win, lose, or draw, good night, bad night, I can always say my God still loves me, my family still loves me, and I still love me. And I think if we can take more of that approach in any endeavor that we go down, and I know mine is mixed martial arts, but whatever road it may be, if you can be content with whose you are, and who you are, and who you have, you can be that much more impactful. So on fight nights, it's happiness and it's joy, even though it is violence, And even now, I got the biggest opportunity of my life, fighting Conor McGregor later this year. We're going to be on a reality show called The Ultimate Fighter every Tuesday night on ESPN. It's called The Ultimate Fighter at 9 o'clock Central. So we're going to be 12 episodes. It's the biggest platform you could ever ask for. A guy who had my kind of setbacks, my kind of failures, my kind of deficiencies is not supposed to be in that position. A guy who isn't the number one guy in the world, a guy who isn't the biggest name in the world. But I can tell you, I got the opportunity in so many different ways because of obedience, because of diligence, because of discipline. It's doing the small things right. It's doing the small things right with enthusiasm, setback after setback. You got to remember too, Jesus didn't heal Lazarus until he was actually dead. He said, it was for your sake that I was not there, so you can see a miracle happen. Mary and Martha said, Lord, why were you not there? Why did you not answer our call? He's not there to answer every single call. Sometimes we need to have the setbacks to be able to become the man or woman that we were called to be. And I think that's just been my life, and 37 years on this planet now, the biggest opportunity of my life. Many times I thought the career was on its downturn, and I was thinking about, okay, what am I doing next? And now it's just given me a huge platform I just thank God I can be on a microphone. I thank God I can be on camera. I thank God I can touch people, reach people, and do what he has called me to do because of the platform that he has given me. And it's always going back to gratitude and seeking his face through it all.
He could have just dropped the mic right after that one right there.
This looks expensive. I don't want to break this thing.
So, Michael, you've been a tremendous blessing to all of us. I'm speaking for myself, even though I'm up here talking to you and having a conversation. Man, you've blessed me with the words that you're saying. And, I'm incredibly inspired by who you are, what you've been able to do. And I've had the privilege to watch you fight before I ever knew anything about you. And now seeing how much of a man of God you are is mind-blowing to me. That a man can get in the ring and do what you do, but still have love and compassion. It even speaks and ministers to me on how God can touch anybody and God can work in anybody's life. And I think the moral of the story, and I'm just paraphrasing this, is that God has called all of us to be bold in him. He's called all of us to not be ashamed. Because having a big platform, a lot of people can kind of shrink in a shell and say, hey, I don't want to offend the person who's maybe a Muslim, or I don't want to offend the person who's an atheist. But God has not called us to step back in a time like this. He's called us to be bold. In everything you do, you should be bold in God. I was at a conference just yesterday, the NRB out in Orlando, and we had a panel, and there were pastors who were afraid to talk about the issues in this country in the pulpit. and it was 3 of us on the panel, and we went in, and people left inspired to get up, get active, and do something. And I have no idea how to close this, but I want you, Michael, if you have any last things that you want to say, something you want to convey to the audience, whatever you want to, I'm going to give you the floor, man, to finish this off.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it, and it's such an honor to be here. And just in my story, I think from my perspective, I'm just a living testament that it's not that people don't do the right things, it's that we don't do the right things for long enough sometimes. Being patient, being diligent, leading with faith, knowing that the sun really will set tonight and tomorrow is a brand new day. The sun really will come up tomorrow. Leading with that faith and knowing that maybe I just haven't done it for long enough. Because in that waiting, in that patience, in that diligent seeking, we are finding more layers of ourselves, finding more opportunities, more growth, and ultimately reaching more people in the season of stagnation sometimes, in the season of I'm not where I want to be, but I know I'm going to get there. That's what inspires people. We don't follow people because of the virtual certainty of their success, but in spite of their failures and how they recalibrate, reassess, and come back from those. So anybody in the room who's feeling stuck, feeling like they're not getting the results that they want because I've been there, it's not that people don't do the right things, it's just that they don't do the right things for long enough. And if we stay prayed up, we stay faithful, and we stay diligent in the seeking of his face, great things are going to happen because the hard work eventually pays off. You just still have to be standing there arms wide open when it does.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Michael Chandler.
Thank you, guys.